My microphone's causing me problems here, Brandon, to record this.
We just pull it off of YouTube.
Yeah, we may have to. I'm getting a lot of feedback on this mic this time.
Try and turn the audio.
My microphone's causing me problems here, Brandon.
You can try and turn the speaker all the way down. You just pull it.
Okay. Go, let's give it a try here, Brandon.
Are we up and running, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm posting Facebook and Twitter for people to watch right now.
Okay. I'm banging the gavel as we speak. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order. May we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. I believe we start out with roll call, Joyce.
Yep. John,
Here.
Ben,
Here.
Chris,
Here.
Dave,
Here.
and Steve.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Joyce, please.
Ben, Ben,
Aye, sorry.
that's okay. Chris,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to the reports and recommendations of the superintendent, new business.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this special meeting. Tonight, we just have a presentation from Entrust Solar. We have been talking with them on and off for a while now about doing a solar field at Swanton High School to help with our energy costs and to help us be a little bit greener in our operations. So Entrust has been doing solar projects for several area schools over the last couple of years. Wasion, Tenora, Ayersville, Antwerp, and a few more. So we started talking with them and just invited them along tonight. I wanted the board to hear directly from them about the project, what it entails, and of course, be able to ask questions about the benefits for the district for this project. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Entrust and let them start with the presentation.
Well, thank you, Chris. And I'd like to thank all the board members for allowing the special meeting to go forward. It means a tremendous amount to us to be able to present to you. As Mr. Lake has stated, we have been more prevalent in the area going forward. We have done a lot of the community schools in the Northwest Ohio area. So Entrust is building a bigger and more prudent footprint out in this area. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mike Campo. I'm the CFO of Entrust. I have also Nathan Vogel, who is the Vice President of Business Development for Innovatus. I have Andrew Proctor, who is the Senior Project Engineer for Innovatus. And Innovatus is our partner. We have partnered on multiple arrays throughout the years, and we feel that they do excellent and quality work. So for more technical questions tonight, I invited these gentlemen to come along so they could explain in a more technical sense for any member of the board that would like to talk about that. Also, we have Pat Weidenhammer from Business Development at Entrust. And my assistant, Kaylin Bruce, is going to be doing my IT work here for me. So thank you all again for inviting us to speak to the board. I'd like to do a small presentation. Mr. Lake and Joyce, you guys have seen this. And if you don't mind, I can just go over it at a high level. If you gentlemen and ladies have any questions whatsoever, please stop us at any time. So I want to make this discussion a little bit more interactive. Entrust is looking to commit and make a commitment not only to Swanton School, but also to the community in which Swanton resides. It is important for us to become good stewards of the environment. And that's one of the reasons Mr. Blake started this organization many years ago. Kaylin, can you start the presentation? Are there any questions so far, folks? Okay, good. We'll start the presentation. And I know some of you may have seen this before, but I'll share it with you and we'll go through it. And please stop me at any time to answer. I can answer any questions for you. Let's go forward.
Yep, just a second, let me get this a little.
Take your time. 1 second, folks.
Okay.
We're going to discuss a little bit about our story, who we are, what we are, and why we're where we're at in this paradigm of creating solar fields and solar parks for schools. Our story really is a very unique one because we're only concentrating our business in schools and municipalities. That's where our niche is. That's where we like to work and play in. Okay, we're going to discuss a little bit about our partners and who they are, Innovatus, their story, dynamics, energy, and a little bit about their story. And then the financing, really what everybody wants to talk about. How is this being created? Really, what is the involvement of the school financially and in other ways within the project? And I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about that, and we'll get into that. The solar project itself and Innovatus is really going to take Nathan Vogel from Innovatus is going to talk a little bit about the solar project, the specific layouts and how that works. And then we'll get into the other dynamics. So if you can just.
Yep.
I'm not going to read this to you guys because I know that when people read me things, it really kind of annoys me. But in a nutshell, we were started by our founder, Thomas Blake, who is an educator. He worked for many years through retirement at Defiance at Tenora High School. He is an educator, retired from the education system, and still his passion is education and working with youngsters, you're working with the youth and helping who we are as a society. I myself, I'm a former professor from Purdue University. I taught economics, and academics is still running through my blood day in, day out. So this is of concern to me. And being able to put schools on the cutting edge is really what we're trying to do, and giving schools advantages, both environmentally, through the community, and financially. So in a nutshell, Solar Usage Now was the predecessor to where we're talking about today, Entrust. It was created in 1978 by Mr. Blake during a period of the energy crisis. And we have emerged in different iterations throughout the years to what we find ourselves today. We as an organization are considered an F de boom company. We finance, develop, we own, and we operate, and we maintain the arrays, okay? So that'll start to make more sense to you as we get into the presentation, because Entrust in and of itself is the one that bears the risk and puts in the arrays at our expense. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. So we leverage, positive cash flow through the solar project to implement exactly what the school needs to implement: energy savings and a helpful hand to the environment. About Innovative Solar, you know what, I'm going to let Nathan, you're there. We were going to talk about this, but I would like Nathan to talk a little bit about Innovative Solar, who you are, and if we could keep it tight.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. All right. Hi, guys. I'm Nathan Vogel. I'm the VP of Business Development with Innovative Solar here. Just a little bit about Innovative Solar. We started back in 2005 as a distributor of solar products, and we were working in building kind of energy efficient green homes and small commercial before LEED certification was really popular, or Energy Star, any of that. But at that time, we started distributing solar products, strictly Unisolar, which was a product out of the Midwest. It was made in Michigan, a thin film product. And then we started distributing Kyocera. And then from that point on, our customers, we started to realize that our customers want the full package. They wanted engineering, procurement, and construction. They wanted it all in one. And so we put together our engineering team, and we are an EPC, we're engineering, procurement, construction company, and a developer within the industry, the solar industry. We've completed to date around 400 megawatts, and we've worked all over the country, all over the US and in the Caribbean. And then in the past, we did some development work in South America and Central America, but we stepped back and refocused on the Midwest specifically here in the US. And Innovatus, our headquarters is in South Bend, Indiana. We do have employees all over the place. We have, I think 3 or 4 employees who live in Ohio right now. But we do have a headquarter in South Bend, Indiana. We currently have roughly around 40 employees. And we've been working with Entrust and Tom Blake with Solar Usage Now actually for over 10 years. So when we started Innovative Solar, Solar Usage Now was doing solar thermal, and they worked well together. And we actually did training events throughout Indiana and Ohio 10 plus years ago. And that's how we kind of got started together.
Thank you, Nathan. Can you go ahead and flip to the next one? Folks, these are some of the projects that we have completed in the area. This is a picture of the Ayersville, Ohio location that we have. This is the Elida School, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, we did 2 there, one for the middle school and one for the high school.
Correct.
So it was a bifurcated solar park, which is actually quite unique. Because we were not able to service one school, we were able to get both in, which was nice. And then we have Wasion, Ohio School Corp there. But quite frankly, we have 8 current solar parks in the northwest Ohio area. We have 1 in the southeastern area of Michigan, which is Onstead Schools. A little bit about, this is another one of our partners, and unfortunately Jeff Feesby, who's one of our partners, could not be here tonight due to a tragedy in his family. But what we wanted to show you is that Entrust isn't just an inch deep and a mile wide. We're a lot deeper than just a financial organization. We bring some power to our services here, and along with Innovatus, Dynamics Energy Service does a lot of work with us, and they're going to be doing some work with us on design and installation regarding our environmental conservation measures, having to do with working with the heating and ventilation, basically HVAC controls within the school. They have a big team of people. They have over 50 people concentrated in Ohio. They've worked with over 50 schools. And basically, in a nutshell, what they do is they work with us on retrofitting schools to make them more technologically efficient, more energy efficient, okay? So in a nutshell, that's who they are. Okay. This is kind of where we're getting to the meat of what we're trying to accomplish here. I'm sure you guys have all heard of a PPA, a power purchase agreement. What a PPA is in a nutshell, it's an agreement between 2 organizations that allows one to sell electricity to the other. Basically, what we're doing here is putting in a solar array where we are taking on a percentage of the total amount of energy that is produced by the array total. And usually that's around 80% of what we have here. So 80% of the energy is coming from the array that's on your property, and then 20% comes from the grid itself. But the agreement in and of itself is called the power purchase agreement. And it's really the blueprint. It's the Bible of how we're going to, everything gets in here, how it's financed, all the penalties and all that stuff that's involved in the delivery of electricity. Any questions, guys, ladies? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Why enter into a PPA in regards to that? Basically, there is no upfront investment by the school. It reduces energy cost. And I'll go even one further, because the Entrust PPA not only funds capital upgrades, basically what the Dynamics company that we were talking about, but Entrust PPA fixes the rate for 30-year term. Okay, the energy costs remain constant for those 30 years. At fixed intervals or at the end of the lease, the system can be purchased at fair market value. And we provide all the maintenance and care for the operation of the array while it's on your possession, on your property. Okay, questions? Okay. Site specifics. Nathan, this is the one that I want you guys to talk about a little bit here. So if you want to segue right in.
Sure, I can go into this one. So what you're looking at here is in the upper right corner is the layout. We do have an updated layout that we can share here, and I can share with the share screen in a minute if we need to, or if you guys want to look at it, but it just kind of angles up a little more and pushed it back, but we can go over the details of that. What you're looking at here is a 620 kilowatt system. So that's the DC rating of it. And then the AC rating is 522 kilowatts. Going through some of your utility costs and some of that was provided from, we got that information from your utility bills, some of the information that you provided to Entrust earlier. And so we're showing that your current costs are 140,000 roughly, and your per watt or per kilowatt hour price is about 11.25 cents. So what this solar system would do in terms of what's produced by the solar, you would be producing 540 kilowatt hours from that system. And I'm sorry, was there a question?
No,
sorry, I had a little feedback there. Yeah, and so that's basically what the arrays, or where the array would go. And Kaylin, if you want to stop share, and then I can share the updated drawing, or if you have it.
Yep, absolutely.
Before we go there, Nate, real quick,
Sure.
One of the things I wanted to let the board know that, yes, it's going to be 620 watts, and it will cover just a little bit under 3 acres of ground on the property. And we do that ground mounts more than anything else, specifically for the safety and security and the stability of the project. Ground mounts are much more stable and secure than the ones that are put on for roofs. So I just wanted to let you guys know if you're looking at that. And the other thing that's interesting here to note on this slide is that the total savings is going to be over $1 million, $1.5 million over that 20-year period. So, and this is PPA goes out to 30 years. There's even more savings in that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick and stop sharing this so you can go ahead and share, Nathan.
Where are we thinking about putting that? What ground?
Nathan, can you answer that? I don't have that specific because it's on the designs for the school.
Let me pull it up here. It's based off of some visits that we did and communication with some of your team. So there's
I could answer that.
Sure, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so we're looking to install the solar array on the north side of the school. There's a farmer's field to the north of the school, and the field is it's almost split up into 2 sections. There's some trees that kind of run through the middle there, and we will be installing on the north side of those trees. And I guess another thing to note is when we've done this design, we have analyzed the tree height and done some shading analysis to make sure that the solar array is not going to be shaded by those trees as well.
And Andrew, do you want to touch on the flood any sort of flood. We also, dig into
Sure.
if there's any sort of flooding issues in the area.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got our IT department was doing some updates, so I got kicked out of the Zoom, but I am on the call. So if Nathan has that layout pulled up, there is a little bit of area there that is a flood zone. We've actually designed around the flood zone. So no part of the solar, no part of the fence, none of the area is going to be in the flood zone. We don't want to mess with that. Not only for just making sure things function properly, but also if you do go in flood zones, you have to have flood insurance, which also adds costs. So we've designed completely around that, so it's not in there. And then what we'll just be doing is we will be installing a step up and step down transformer, and we will be running the conductors from the solar array and connecting it into the school's main switchgear, and the solar will be offsetting your usage when school is in session and when school is not in session. So we work with your utility, Toledo Edison, and they have a net metering program where when school is not in session and solar is still producing on weekends and stuff, the meter actually will run backwards and credit you for that production.
Okay, guys, any questions on this? Okay, good. Nathan, you want to continue?
Sure. Kaylin, you want to pull up the presentation? I stopped shared the.
There you go.
Yeah, if you could just talk about the PP information there. I mean, the cost of the solar.
Sure. So like I mentioned, the current cost that you're paying is 11.25 cents. What this PPA would come in at is 9 cents.
And folks, this is locked in for the period of 30 years. So it is a tremendous savings right off the bat. Not only are we saving you currently, your most utility organizations that I know of always include an escalator throughout the years. You may be locked in for a certain period of time, but as of right now, we're saving you actually 2.25 cents overall per kilowatt hour, and that's going to be frozen for a period of 30 years with no escalator. So your annual savings, as it looks like there to the school, is a real $10,558.23. Okay, Kay. Again, one of the things that I wanted to kind of explain and kind of touch on at a 30,000 foot level is there is a science, almost a ballet that goes into the creation of the solar array. How we size the solar array is extremely important. We have to take, not only the dimensions of the school, but we have to look at how efficient are the operations of the facility. We do not want to overproduce on these solar arrays. We want to come just under, because your intake of energy will fluctuate. And what we don't want to do is be able to overproduce energy on this system. So we, as a course of action, always want to keep it under. So it's very important, and this goes back to the Dynamics organization that we work with as a partner. They help us in the creation of looking at the efficiency of your facilities to see how we can impact that going forward. So just to keep that in mind. Okay. Again, let's talk about the leverage of the savings. The project savings can be utilized for additional energy conservation measures, like we were just talking about, building management systems, controls, LED lightings, upgrading HVAC, other building upgrades, and reducing of your needs to further by investing now, you don't have to invest in the future in this. So there's a huge energy saving to be gained. How does the process work? Well, we gather data like we've been gathering your data so we can develop how much we were going to be at the pricing level. And we do that by gathering your utility bills for 12 months. We look at the floor plans, the system layouts, and we then try to give you a turnkey type of implementation, the design, how much we're going to be producing for the school. All of that is very important. And that will also be incorporated within the PPA agreement.
Yep.
Next.
Okay.
On this slide, you kind of see some slides there of our improvements that we've done to lower energy and efficiency costs for the schools. Our hot water tanks, this is a very unique aspect of solar usage now, and Entrust is the ability to have a solar preheat system, which tremendous savings over time. It's something that, if not needed now, has to be looked at in the future, because this is the wave of the future. The savings that we have here are astronomical, because you pay water going in and you pay water going out. And this is an opportunity to be able to save on that money in a collective fashion. So. New temperature controls also reduce energy consumption, improve building comfort, and all that good stuff. And again, this may not be for you today, but it's something to keep in mind that we also do. And everything that we do goes to the efficiency and energy for the schools. Other components that we work on, roofing, chillers, and boiler replacements, central plant upgrades also. Basically anything and everything having to do with the HVAC systems of the buildings. Okay. One of the hot buttons for our organization is biodiversity and educational opportunities for schools. We want a win-win formula. And we like, because Mr. Blake is a former educator and so am I, everybody within our organization truly believes in the ability for sustainability, to focus on what the future generations of our society, our kids need. The concept of sustainability is really composed of three pillars: economic, environmental, and social. And we like to work within all three of those aspects. Okay. One of the things that's actually kind of unique about us is that, yes, we can put in a grass field and it looks very nice when it's mowed, but we can also go one step further and be much more proactive with our children. You know, the field can act as a land lab. We can put in, we can attract butterflies and bees and other wildlife. We can plant certain plants there that will attract that wildlife. And just instead of having a barren, just grass covered, very landscaped piece of property, you can have something there where the kids can actually go with their teachers and interact in a social and scientific environment. Okay. Yeah, next. We also work on aquaculture, farming in the water, hydroponics in terms of growing new plants in this. This isn't just a scientific environment. This is also something the school can use in their cafeteria, growing lettuce and tomato and parsley and other types of nutritious vegetables.
So you're including this garden with this proposal, or?
We can talk about that, yes.
No, is it included or it's not included in the proposal?
It is not included in the proposal. This is something we do above and beyond.
7 o'clock.
Okay.
Excuse me? I didn't hear that.
I don't know, something about a clock. I didn't say it.
Oh, okay. No, this is not included. This is above and beyond, but we could talk about doing something with you guys about this.
Then why is it included in the proposal, I guess is what I'm asking.
Because I'm kind of showing you guys exactly kind of what we do in a holistic approach, that, you know, we're not just a developer of solar fields, a donator of solar fields. We do offer all these other activities too. You don't have to take it, but it is an opportunity for you kind of to see who we are.
Well, I'm just asking, you know, this is supposed to be a proposal about the construction project. That's why I'm asking, what is this included or not? That was why I was asking.
No, the answer is no, sir. It is not.
All right, thank you.
Sure, go on. This slide here shows us our projects that we have worked on, our 9 in the Ohio area. And we've also done multiple solar thermal projects throughout the United States. Okay. Basically, our summary is, we want to work with the organization, we want to work with the school. This is a donation that we are making on behalf of Entrust to the school. All costs are covered by Entrust. The development of the organization, I wanted to introduce you guys to Innovators to kind of give you guys an enlightenment of who they are and what kind of work they do. And at the end of the day, that's basically who we are. And I wanted to thank you very much for hosting us.
Oh, we've got the cash flow analysis.
Yeah, we can go through the cash flow analysis if you guys want, or we can get into more specific questions. Sir, you have some questions about engineering that you would like to talk about? Dave, do you have some questions on the engineering side? Because we do have our engineer present on the call.
Doesn't look like it.
Dave, can you hear us?
Yes, I just asked about the hydroponic garden. Well, the land, is that, we're going to lease that to you guys, or is that still going to be school owned, or?
Well, we take it under an easement agreement. So once that easement agreement is signed, it gives Entrust the ability to create on that land and maintain the land under the, but you still own the land.
Well, not with an easement. An easement means it's yours. I can't do anything with it. So is that going to end at the end of this agreement, or is that going to?
That will end at the end of this agreement.
Okay, because most easements, just like I have an Edison easement, that's Edison's forever. I can't do anything with that.
That is, within the language of our PPA, it specifically states that that land reverts back at that period of time to the ownership of the school.
Okay. And then pretty much this is going to be, you're going to use the acreage for the solar panels, and then it's going to be finished with grass. Is that typical?
Yes, as it stands right now, the typical installation is with grass, yes. Unless what I showed you guys, we can plant wildflowers to attract wildlife, bees, we can put bees back there. And that's more environmentally sustainable.
Why are we putting this in the grass? Why aren't we putting this over the parking lot?
Quite frankly, I think that's a question for you guys to answer. We can put it in the parking lot if we want to, because it is ground-based. But at the end of the day, that's a decision I think that you guys, that's a board decision, not a us decision. We just request the land, and so we can give you the array, install it, and do everything we can do with construction. But where it goes in proximity to the school, that's really a decision that's made by the board.
So what's the difference in your presentation if it were to be over the parking lot?
Nothing.
Well, would it be a car?
It may be more
Are you asking
expensive
for
to
like
tear out the parking
carports,
lot.
or are you just laying it on the parking lot?
Right, over the parking lot, so it would serve as a carport as well.
Well, then the price would go up on the overall system cost, and I would guess that your PPA rate would go up. But it is something that we do and we can do. Innovators has installed the largest solar carport in North America at Michigan State, and it is something that we're familiar with and can do and could do over the parking lot area that you have there. We would have to check this to see what system size we could get and then reprice it out. But typically ground mounted areas, you have a lot less maintenance and a lot less issues that come with them. Like rooftop, like Mike was saying, a lot of times you have to deal with warranties and penetrations of the roof. With carports, there's some similar issues that you have, especially when it's snowy out and you're plowing through areas like that, but it is doable and it is possible.
So we wouldn't own the units. You would own the units, but we would have the right to purchase it after how many years?
After 30 years.
And what would we pay? We pay fair market value?
Yes, you would.
And what is the current fair market value?
Well, right now it's the value of the construction that's going in there.
I'm saying of your other properties that you hold, what is an estimate of a fair market value at the time?
Well, it has to do with a lot of issues, but it's usually like, do you want a percentage of that, or do you looking for number? I'm just, because we haven't, it's really the cost of the construction. So we're looking at 1.2, 1.3 million as a fair market value for that construction now, because the land it's not worth anything to us. You own the land, so there's an easement there. But the
Right.
construction of the actual units is going to be about $1.3 million. So that would be fair market value today. Now, 30 years from now, there's degradation that happens, which is the solar arrays start to lose their potency, if you will, throughout the year. So, but then there's issue in upgrading. So you know what, it could be an increase of maybe, I don't know, 5-6% a year for that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that because we haven't sold one yet. So there's no real hurry to market that in that respect. So you guys would have a crack at it if you wanted after 30 years, and it would be assessed. It would be an independent assessment of what the value of the solar array is at that point. And then you guys can take a crack at it if you want.
I have another question. I thought at some point we were talking that we could purchase it for $1 at 30 years, or was that something I misheard?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't know anything about that. The PPA that we have been working with Mr. Lake is explicit on the saying that it's fair market value.
Okay, I misunderstood that then. Okay, and then as it's planned, it's going to have grass around all these solar arrays. Who's going to be mowing all that?
We take care of the maintenance of the array.
All right, so it's going to be fenced in and it's all your baby.
That's correct. Completely private and shut out. I mean, obviously the kids will have access to it during tours that they want to do back there. But again, we try to limit access to that location.
Okay, and then how many of these upgrades, these electrical, as far as lighting and stuff, upgrades are included in this proposal?
None. That's a separate issue. When we talk about the upgrades, what we try to do is leverage what you're saving on the solar arrays and apply that to savings that you would have on any type of school improvements. But the way it works is we are donating the solar array, and we are donating basically everything that has to do with the solar array and the maintenance and all that beautification. Then you guys get a beautiful solar array. And if you want to do improvements on the school, what we do is we leverage the savings that you're doing on the solar array and apply them to the environmental conservation measures. So we're not basically giving you anything away on the environmental conservation measures.
No, that's what I'm asking, because it sounds like, that's why I'm asking. So we have to go to you for these improvements as far as your companies? Are we locked in that also?
No, not at all. There is no, you're not bound to use us at all. You're free to use who you would ever like. We make the presentation because we would like for you guys to use us. And that's one of the reasons we did that, to let you know that we do that stuff going forward. You don't have to use us at all. You can use whoever you would like. But this is a service that we do offer. And if that is part of the agenda to work in the school and improve the school in that respect, we're more than happy to do that with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I've heard a lot of numbers and a lot of figures, and somewhere in there, I think I heard the number, but I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Bottom line, what is this going to save the school district? And I don't care if it's per month or per year. What are we looking at in savings?
Sir, you're going to be looking at over $10,000 a year in savings for your energy bill.
And that is for just the high school.
Yes, that's all we're putting in. Yes, just for the high school. The savings, sir, is $10,558.23. Based
off the rate that you guys currently pay.
Correct.
So going over 30 years. So that's with no increase, right, Mike?
Right. There's no increase. There's no escalator. So you guys are locked in at 9 cents. Currently, after the analysis, you guys are paying 11.25 cents So we're saving you guys right off the bat first year. And then going forward, you guys are locked in at 30, for 30 years, you're locked in at 9 cents. So as your regular utility bill will increase, this will never increase.
What would happen if the price were to fall below 9 cents and we're locked in at 9 cents?
Yes, that is something that would be a problem. But to be honest with you, that has never happened. Everything still continues to escalate. There is a possibility of that happening.
Well, no one
it
thought
is-
oil was going to fall below $100 a barrel. Then it went to 50 and 30, and now it's negative 30. So
Right.
Yeah, but how they calculate the energy, how that's done, oil isn't part of that. You know, it doesn't fall into the calculations that Toledo Edison is calculating for your kilowatt hour. It's calculated differently. I understand the fluctuation in the energy, but it hasn't gone down for that I know of in the last 10 years. So we anticipate it continuing up.
Yeah, we do anticipate it to go up. And then also, I mean, demand charges and things like that that the utilities keep tacking on will continue to go up as well moving forward.
Right. So, I mean, right off the bat, sir, you guys are going to see a couple of cents in savings, which, to be honest with you, it's going to be probably a little bit north of that $10,558. And, you know, we consider that a good start. And that's going to, that difference is going to widen as energy costs continue to escalate.
okay, so what kind of wire, or do you tap into the Edison wire that's already going to the school, or do you have to bury a new wire to the transformers on the side of the school, or how does the panels get hooked up from across the street?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we run our own wire, we run our own conductor, and we do not tap into Toledo Edison's. Actually, we will be connecting in your switchgear, in your electrical room, and we'll be tapping in there.
But if the school's surrounded by concrete, how do you get in there?
We can go through the wall. I know there's an electrical area there that you have. Yeah.
Are we still on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Where your electrical area is, we can bring our conductor in there and go through the wall into your electrical room, and then go into the switchgear from there. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
If I understand this properly, it's going to cost us nothing, any expense wise. It's going to save us $10,000 a year. So over 30 years, we're going to save $316,000. And then in year 30, we have to pay $1.3 million to purchase it from you.
No, sir, you do not. You have the option to buy that if you choose. You do not have to. We are giving you the right to buy the array in the 30th year. So you don't have to buy it at all. We're just giving you the right to buy it if you'd like to buy it. If not, the relationship there will be an extension, or, I mean, the PPA ends at 30 years. So there'll have to be a renegotiation to see if, you know, we continue, you guys continue, if that relationship continues at that point. But you are under no obligation whatsoever to have to buy the array. There is no out-of-pocket expense to the school whatsoever, other than, you know, a little dust during the construction process. There is no expense. There's no frustration on your end. There's none of that. We take care of everything. So basically, it's a $1.3 million gift to the school.
So
but at the end of 30 years, if we choose not to continue, then you take our land, or
No, sir, we do not. Your land is your land. We will take, after the end of the 30 year, the way the PPA reads, if I'm correct, we will, if the relationship does not continue, we can take the array off.
You will remove that and not
Yes.
at a cost to us?
Yes, that's the way the PPA states.
Okay.
But I don't want you guys to think, and ladies too, that really that we're out to take your land. It's none of that. It's your land. We're just on it. After 30 years, you guys have the right to buy it if you want to. If you don't, you don't have to. And at that point, we can continue the relationship or we can remove the items that are there.
And you're so new that you don't have any, obviously you haven't had anybody hit the 30-year mark where.
No, sir, we have not.
Right. So we don't know what 30 years is going to bring us as far as.
That is correct. I hope to be around in 30 years to be able to renegotiate the deal with Swanton School.
I will not be here in 30 years.
You don't know that.
A long time.
I might be helping you in to the meeting in 30 years.
Okay. Board members, other questions?
I guess our problem is we always have to look at the negatives that are going to come of it because that's the feedback we're going to get. So
sure, it
always sounds like an amazing thing, and the whole time I'm thinking, okay, what's the downside? What's the downside? So,
and let me be honest with you, there is no downside. This is not too good to be true. We are taking the risk. We make money on this, so this is not a charity. We are donating this to your school. There is no downside. And the PPA agreement, which I've been dealing with your attorney now, is there to protect you and us. So, you know, we don't take your land. If one of the maintenance is constant, we're there, we're cleaning it, we're doing things. We have a maintenance agreement with a local organization that will do maintenance a couple of times a year in terms of cleaning. It is a pristine showplace. And I'll leave you with this. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to the other superintendents who have worked with us and their experiences with that. We have had glowing reviews. And at the end of the day, the community wins, the school wins, the kids win. It becomes an educational tool. It's just a win-win for not only the school board, the school community, and ourselves.
Can I ask one more?
Of course, sir.
I'm not to be a negative Nelly, but if I'm reading this map correctly and visualizing this, you're going to butt up to the subdivision that's, I guess that would be west of, or no. Well, anyways, the subdivision that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's the west subdivision would be to the west. This is out farther, Steve. If you can kind of see on the map, you know where that scrub line is that kind of cuts that field in half. This is out past that. So there's actually a stand of trees that would be right to the west of.
I mean, you know how things are when you start disrupting and people's neighborhoods and that, they have a tendency to get a little bit irritated in that. So I just want to make sure that, you know, when this goes on, that, you know, we're not going to touch up a firestorm in there. So you're saying that it should not impact the subdivision as is.
It'll be visible from that Waterwood Drive that leads into that subdivision from what I'm looking at here.
It'll probably be visible, yes. But obviously and Entrust, as they work on this, you know, they're going to work with the village on all the permits and things that we would need, you know, to follow all the ordinances and things like that.
Right.
And our job, gentlemen, is not to disrupt anything.
Right. My assumption is you've done that legwork and know that we're not going to run into somebody that decides, well, we're going to sue the school because we're putting this field in.
I mean, I've had conversations with the village and told them about, you know, the project we would like to do. And, you know, the response there has been pretty positive. And, you know, it would just be a matter of us, like we do with any project, you know, we go file a permit with the zoning and meet, and go and answer questions and, go through the normal channels.
We go through that, or is it a combination deal where our partner here is going to be there with us to do this presenting?
Sir, if I'm more than welcome, I'm more than happy to do whatever you guys would like us to do. We want to really describe how beautiful this is and how much of a boom it is for the community to have this. So, I want to turn any frown upside down and make sure that, they're happy, their children are going to be there. And when they see that their tax dollars are not increasing because of what we're doing here, but actually going down a few ticks, I think that'll turn a few frowns upside down and give the community a very positive feel of what we're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just an exercise in beautifying that area, it's saving the community money. This is real tax money. And when we can show this in real tax dollars, the community likes to get behind it. And every community we've been in, folks, is really proud of this. Because it's yours.
And I have toured several of our area schools that have put these in. I've gone out and checked out their arrays. They really are. They're very well kept. I mean, they don't look shabby at all. Everything looks good, is clean, manicured. They're not in any way an eyesore.
But if there's an issue, folks, I just want to guarantee the fact that we will stand behind what we're doing. And if we have to present to the community there, we will definitely do that. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, we do a lot of community engagement and outreach. So wherever necessary, we'd be happy to work with you guys on that.
I have another question.
Sure.
North of this proposed solar array, how much of that land is still the schools? That whole mode area?
I'm sorry, all the land is yours. Whatever is within the confines of the easement agreement is what we take care of. I hope that answers your question.
No, I'm saying you have a picture of where the solar array is laid out.
Right.
All right. And it just doesn't show that I can see on this small little drawing the property line for the school's land is what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay. Nathan, do you happen to have that that we can see real quick?
I don't have the property lines in front of me.
Dave, I can answer that.
Okay, my question, the bottom line of my question is how much of the land to the north is the schools, number one. Number two, are we going to be able to access it? And then three, I guess, would be, it looks like it goes almost over to the creek, which
Actually,
if we do have land north of that, then it's going to kind of isolate it, I guess, is my thinking.
the picture that Nathan showed earlier, Dave, showed how the shape of it was a little bit different. The farmland is currently leased or rented out to a local farmer, and he farms basically that whole farm that's being in that picture, plus on the other side of the creek. So the school owns both sides of that creek land there. So,
Okay, but how about to the north? If I'm looking at this correctly.
where that road is,
Well, it looks like the subdivision up there, but it looks like we go up to the subdivision.
I think we do, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna have a substantial, if that's 3 acres, it looks like we're gonna have 2 acres north of this. And it looks like it's almost gonna be isolated. I guess my question is, or my thought is that gonna be isolated and then it's gonna be sitting there and we're not gonna be able to do anything with it?
Now, the picture that's in here right now is not the accurate picture. Nathan had showed us a different picture with a different configuration.
Nathan, can you put that up, please?
Yeah, I thought this was the quote new and improved version, but
No, I've got another one that we recently updated. Kaylin, can you stop share and I'll share it?
Yep, absolutely.
maybe we can get that email to us so that it's
Sure, absolutely.
pretty small
Yeah.
on this screen.
Of course, we just did it. It was just done, so we didn't have time to put it into this presentation. So that's the new and updated drawing.
It's the new and updated, so it's a little more compact. It opens up a little bit more.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
Is there a catalog or a brochure for the add-on thing? Say we want a butterfly garden in our solar field.
Sure.
What is, what do we know? What is the cost factor for those types of add-on things?
We would add that in complimentary. We would not charge you for that because I'll share with you why. Because it would lessen our mowing. We wouldn't have to mow the lawn there as frequently, and it would actually save us money. So if we put in a butterfly garden for you, which actually we're ecstatic to do for you, it would save on costs for us and it would beautify the whole area. We would mow the lawn, sir, twice a year if we did that with those wildflowers, just to make sure they're contained. But actually, we're tickled pink to be able to try to do something like that for you guys, to attract monarch butterflies, for instance, or attract, milkweed for bees or something like that. So yeah, I think we're tickled pink to be able to try a project like that, and there's no cost to you for that.
Okay, so say we went ahead with this project, at what point in time do we have to tell you, hey, we would like to do that?
Oh, I think we have a little bit of time because we're going to be in heavy construction for the next, few months, but we try to do these things quick. So, before it's all said and done, we'd like to know so that we can plan it out for you. But yeah, like I said, we would be tickled pink to be able to put in a beautiful flower garden for you.
Nathan, is there a way you could share with them maybe the schedule of construction that we are proposing?
Yeah.
Dave, was some of your question from earlier kind of about like a butterfly garden? If that's free to put in, is that what you were asking earlier about, like what's included in this proposal kind of question?
Well, it was more, we were talking about butterfly gardens and I don't know, look like fish ponds and all that, and all these upgrades. That's why I was asking what was included in this proposal. I mean, actually, the proposal is it's a solar field or a solar array.
Yes.
That was the reason I was asking. And the other reason for that too is I could just see us in there mowing and running into one of these things, and then who's responsible. That was my reasoning for that. This way, our staff does not have to touch those things, and then we don't have any issues with something happening. The mower went wild and tore out 2 arrays. Who's responsible? Blah, 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 blah. That's the reason I was asking about the mowing, and who's going to maintain it.
Yeah, sir. All that cost again is borne by Entrust. We do all the maintenance. And again, I apologize if the proposal wasn't as succinct as you would have liked, but at the end of the day, we don't get a lot of offerings for our butterfly gardens, to be honest with you. It's beyond me why people don't want to do it. But, like I said, being able to put one in for Swanton would be a pleasure because it would fulfill one of the tenets that we want, is to make the solar park, the solar array area, more functional than just a barren golf course looking beautiful thing. But, to make it functional and how it works within the environment is really what we want to do. So, it is barren land and we want to be able to do something with it.
Okay, I do have one other question. And so you guys mow it, you'd be mowing it twice a year during the summertime?
If we put in the flower garden, yes. The butterfly garden, yes. We would do it twice a year. Kaylin, do you have?
Yes. So right now, if grass is the option, you guys would choose. Basically, we have a gentleman who is out of, I believe he's out of Defiance, and he mows the grass once a week during like spring and fall when it's a little cooler and the grass is really growing fast. And then during the summer months when it kind of is stagnant, he mows every other week. And he's been working with us. He works on all the rest of our arrays. He does a really nice job and is clean. He doesn't drop our, blow his clippings anywhere. He keeps them well contained and does a really nice job.
Yeah, you know, Dave, we really try to keep this like a showpiece. The mowing is consistent, and we do drop off in the summertime simply because it's not irrigated. So there's really no sense of how it's growing. We do not use pesticides. It goes against our very premise to use pesticides on it. We do use a weed control that it is not harmful to the environment. It is biosafe. So it is more money on our end to do that, but we feel committed to the environment. So we do all of that.
No, at one point, the mowing twice a year came up, and that's why I asked, because if it's sitting next to that subdivision and you got weeds growing higher than the panels, I'm sure the neighbors would have an issue with that.
If I understood it, they're mowing the butterfly garden twice. That helps it reseed and
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
I just
correct,
heard-
gentlemen.
Right, I
That is
heard the twice a year. That's why I was trying to clarify it. Is all.
And let me tell you, Dave, the moms over there are going to hit their husbands over the head because of how pretty our array looks. So we're a little bit more on the ball than they are. Trust me.
Well, and just to put some light to this, I mean, Entrust wants this to be a smooth running machine, right? And it affects the overall investment from Entrust if there's weeds growing above the solar panels and they're shading the panels, or animals are getting in there and chewing up the wires. And so to do proper maintenance and on it is really important for the project to move, to have success throughout the 30-year lifetime, and then also so that Entrust doesn't lose money to have a system down or a system that's shaded and losing, percentages of the production. And so it's in our best interest to have this running smooth and look nice and clean as well.
Could you help me understand something?
Sure.
You said the solar field is going to provide 68% of the energy needed by Swanton High School, correct?
No, I said 80%, sir.
80%. So 80% of the energy that our high school needs. And our savings is only 7.5% of what we're currently spending. Why the big difference in the cost versus the actual energy it's producing?
I'll let Nathan answer that because that's up the engineering side. Nathan or Andrew?
Can you restate the question? Sorry, it was breaking up on my end a little.
The solar field's producing 80% of the energy that our high school needs. Our current utility costs are $140,000 a year. So you said our savings is $10,000, which is only 7.5% of our annual cost. If it's producing 80% of the energy, why is our savings only 7.5%?
In terms of the production, Andrew, I'd look to you for that, but we would have to look into the output production that we put in there, and then the PPA price that Mike and his team put together. So
one of the things that we also have to realize is that, gathering energy from the sun is not a constant. So it is going to fluctuate, and there's going to be fluctuations both seasonally, and it's also going to be fluctuations on a daily basis. So it is one of the most reliable methods of sustainable energy, better than wind and a few others. But at the end of the day, there are shortfalls. So you're not going to be receiving as a significant of a savings if you had a coal power plant right next to you. That is a much more direct methodology to be able to power the school. But you know what? I'm not an engineer, sir, but there is a specific formula to that I'd defer to Andrew, if you will.
Yeah, I think part of it is because you're still paying the PPA rate, right? 9 cents a kilowatt hour for that energy. So although the solar array is designed to use or take care of 80% of your production or your usage, you're paying the PPA rate of 9 cents instead of 11 cents.
Okay, it wasn't clicking in my mind and how it all works.
You know what, sir? There is a chart that I have here that I glossed over because I didn't think anybody wanted to see it. If we wanted to put it in the back in there.
Yeah, Nathan, could you give me a second to let me present again? Thank you.
John, can I just take a minute? I know we know that high school is not working as efficiently as it could be. So we also are working on some agreements to help us with energy efficiency with those new controls that we've put in and with the projection, with the HVAC system that we have. So even though we're spending $140,000 this year, we're hoping that in future years, we're spending more like $100,000 or $90,000 to $100,000 on electricity. So that's going to change the percentage a little bit. Plus, we know we need to do an LED project, but we're just not at that point yet with everything else that's going on here in the district. But that's going to save us some cost as well. So we know there's some efficiencies that can happen, and we're working on that as well.
And sir, this is a chart that I think answers your question in terms of our calculations based on your current annual bills. You know, we're looking at, 1,247,120 kilowatt hours that are required by the school. The kilowatt hours that are produced by the solar array, we've calculated 847,540. Kilowatt hours purchased by First Energy after the solar install is less than that. It's 399,580. So at the rate that you have currently at 11 cents and a quarter, you're at 140,248. The value of solar in an escalated format is 95,312. So you're starting to see the value there. And I don't know if this answers your question specifically, but at least it's a gander to take a look at it. This is the formula that we did to the creation of the array.
And that helps, thanks.
And we can get a copy of this sent to you if you'd like, sir.
Yes, thank you.
As part of that question, what happens if it's not sunny for like 3 months, like this year?
Well, at the end of the day, I'll just step here and answer that. The solar panel actually does still receive, direct sunlight, through the cloud cover. It does hamper. There's no doubt about it. It does hamper. But even this year, towards the end of the year, when it was snowy and cold, our registers were still producing, our solar arrays were still producing at a very nice clip. So you will have, if you can go back to the other slide real quick.
Yes, absolutely.
This will show you how the energy production works. And again, you're going to get much more energy production from late spring to early fall. And believe it or not, there's folks that don't understand that, the earth is tilting towards the sun at, our summertime. So we're going to be receiving much more, not only light, but stronger versions of light. So it'll be able to grasp more.
There's more radiation
right
at that time.
So that's a great question, actually. It'll still produce, sir, with, it'll just be a more diminished return if it's that cloudy. But unfortunately, that's, the price we pay for the place we live.
But the projection, the projection is based on a computer module created by the NASA. And then we study the radiation patterns and we put everything into a computer simulation. And generally average production is shown on that chart. So that's, the savings that we project are what you're going to get. And some years might get a little less. Some years you might get a little more. So just the energy saving thing interested me. One of the things we like to do is an energy audit for the school. We don't want to oversize the system. And if you're planning on doing, I sort of considered it when I did the modeling, but if you're going to do lighting or controls or chillers, that this will affect how large the solar field should be. And we want to make sure we don't oversize the solar field, because you'll be paying us 6 cents or 9 cents a kilowatt hour. You'll be paying 11 cents a kilowatt hour. And when they true up, if you're over, they're going to charge you a rate for the overage. And we want to make sure that we take care of all of the energy efficiencies and understand them in our modeling.
Well, to piggyback on that, Chris, is have you factored in the possibility of lights on the soccer and track facility, as well as lights for the potential baseball and softball facilities?
Yes, at the end of the day, everything was taken into account. We did that study to be able, and that analysis to be able to get to that 80%. So what we're trying to do is try not to exceed, and we're anticipating any type of upgrades that you guys might do to the school. That's why we're at that position. If we knew that the school was much more energy efficient, we could have gone up, but we really don't want to risk it because you guys would end up on the losing end of the stick. Where we have it right now, it's a confirmed 9 cents, and you guys won't have to pay a dime more than that.
Okay, but if we happen to add those lighting systems, it still falls within the parameters you've set.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It falls within that 20%.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. We really appreciate the opportunity, and our desire is to work and provide an excellent array for you guys. So thank you very much, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, thanks. Let us know if you have any questions.
Yep, thank
To
you.
follow up on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Or Joyce, are you on the agenda? I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Moving on to the reports of the treasurer. We flipped the order, so.
Yeah, that is fine. Well, I just wanted to take this opportunity, I think, to talk with the board a little bit about some changes that have happened with our state funding. Kind of got hit in the gut with a budget reduction for this year of $237,000. And if that was all we were getting, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, but Chris and I have been in on numerous, it feels like numerous webinars about what's happening with school funding and for next year and where state budget is going, and especially with the economic impact of the shutdown of the state for the last couple months. So we have talked about people being out of work. Okay, let's see. I'm going to share my screen here, so just give me a second. I'm not always the best at this. So we I have a consultant I worked with a couple years ago. Maybe you remember him, David Conley. Just out of the blue, he's been sending me information, so I owe him dinner. But one of the things that individual board members may have called me about was what are we going to do with our projections in the 5-year forecast for school district income tax? And so he's just sent me some data, and I've got a little thing here. So this is initial unemployment claims by week from March 21st through May 2nd. So I guess go here just a little bit higher. So here's Fulton County, Lucas County, and then for the state, the total is for the state. So these are initial claims starting, and you can see how for the state, and it just went up, and now it's starting to go back down. And then Fulton and Lucas County are also in that same kind of a trend. And then down here are continued unemployment claims by week. So here's some data. Again, Fulton County, Lucas County, and then the total for the state. So we can see how unemployment has climbed, and now it's starting to level off. So I like to have some data on that. And then I did a little ditty here for the 12 months. And I just looked at 12 months. I mean, we could do a rolling 12 months one way or the other, but I just did January through December. You know, if we assume, you know, we were going to get 100% of our monthly school district income tax in these months, and then March, April, May, June, you know, a smaller percentage. I'm figuring we might get maybe 96% of our school district income tax, or at least 96% of our people are working. So just trying to come up with some data as to or not how, but what number do we put into our 5-year forecast that we're going to talk about next week for the 5-year, for what we should project into the future is what the question is. So that's just some background data there. I'm going to share another screen here. And I sent this to you folks. There we go. Yep. I sent this to you folks by email. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it is sitting in your email waiting for you to look at it as well. And again, I know it's a lot of numbers, but it's also a very similar format to what we've seen before. So I want to just look at that. I put 2 years of historical data so you can see our state funding has been 5.9, 5.6. We were at 5.7 when we talked last month at our April board meeting. And with the cut, which is, it's not exactly 237 here, but it's in the ballpark for you to see, we're going to be about $5.4 million for state funding. So that's quite a drop in our state funding from 2018 to where we're going to probably end up here for 2020. So then the next question is, where do we go forward? Are we going to be flat for state funding for next year? Because if you listen to Governor DeWine at his 2 o'clock briefings and John Husted and just different things, the state economy is not collecting their share of income taxes and sales taxes and all their revenues as well. And we totally understand that. So how is that going to impact us? So I'm trying to come up with some scenarios here of, what is state funding going to do? And this is this line right here. Okay. So when we talked in April at our board meeting, I said I was going to put together a baseline forecast, everything, pretty well staying set, flat, and then we'll see what happens in October, November when we do our next update. Well, now we're hearing that we're going to get possibly a 10 or even a 20% reduction in state funding. 20% I think would be worst case. 10% might be more realistic, and obviously 0 would be also unrealistic. I don't think we're going to have a flat state funding for next year. So this is across the top here. I put in some assumptions. This is school district income tax reducing by 10%, 5%, 5% in these different options here. State funding reductions by 10%, 10%, 20%. I showed you some of that background information. I think 5% in reduction in the school district income tax is probably realistic. We could argue 10%, but you can see here on the 3rd line of the forecast or the spreadsheet, the difference between, I'd much rather take a 10% cut in school district income tax than a 10% cut in my state funding, just because the numbers would be a lot smaller. So we could go either way on that. But I think 5% is probably realistic. And just as a reminder, our school district income tax does collect at the same tax basis as the state of Ohio income tax. It's not an earned income tax, it's a traditional income tax. So if we look at the yellow line and what that does to our revenue, we were at 14 million, 4.4 million. Even with the cut, we're going to be at about $14.4 million in revenue. And then next year, FY21, we could go down to 13.8, 13.9, or worst case would be $13.3 million in revenue total for the district, for the general fund. So I guess I'm just looking for some direction from you folks. As we look at the 5-year forecast, and again, some conversation with individual board members, some board members don't think we should put in the transfers that we had included last month in the 5-year forecast with the Nexus pipeline. And so the scenarios here do not include any of those transfers. And that's here, this line 5.01. So these transfers here are required for the certificates of participation for the building renovations that we've done. So you can see those amounts. So it's a lot less than if you look at the forecast that we approved that's out there on the web right now. So I like to go to the bottom line, which is the 6.01. This is our operating cash flow. In FY18, we wrapped up our building project. So we did do transfers out to wrap up that project, but our operating cash flow was $535,000. Last year, FY19, we were at a positive $428,000. We did do the transfer, and that was what was approved here in April. So we were at a positive $57,000. If we had not done the transfer, our April number would be about $348,000. So, you know, I think this shows that we are trying to be fiscally responsible. We're trying to keep our staff right-sized and our operations right-sized for our enrollment. We keep talking about our enrollment declining. We still think that's happening. And so we're trying to make sure that our operations stay in line with the students and the programming that we have here. So the good news is, if there is any good news, is by the state cutting our funding for this year, we're on an operational basis negative 80,000, this bottom number down here. So I don't get too upset about being an $80,000 negative on our operations. You know, I feel like we have been financially responsible, prudent, you know, trying to keep our ducks in a line so that we can still be responsible and take a hit now and then if it comes along. Now, next year, if we take a 10 or 20% reduction in state funding, that's going to be a little rough. And so I'm just asking for, if anybody has any, if you got out your crystal ball lately, and if you could work that or, you know, power it up for me, I'd really appreciate it. I have some colleagues that put some Facebook posts out there, and they're trying to get their crystal balls fired up so they can help them with their forecast as well. So I'm open to any kind of help I can get. Now, the long-term question is sustainability. We cannot sustain a 20% cut in our state funding and have it stay at that level of funding. And so that's a whole nother ball of wax. I haven't shared it with you. I'm trying to keep the numbers that I share with you folks simple. I'm trying to keep it simple, but with a 20% cut in state funding, a 5% cut in school district income tax, we're going to be out of money in fiscal year 22 if we don't make any changes. Now, Chris, I can maybe let you talk about a little bit about some of the decisions we've made for next year, knowing some of the things we know already. But we have made some decisions between Chris and I on some staffing for next year. So the numbers that you see include the reduction of 3 staff people for next year. And we're doing that simply through attrition. So at this point, those are positions that for people who have left, and we're just choosing not to fill those positions at this time. And some of them actually was a reduction from last year. We had a sub-fill a position, and so we're trying to dig as much as we can to be as fiscally responsible as we can. So I'm just looking for some help, and I just want to get some feedback from you as board members on state funding, and what do you think we should put in our forecast? I mean, what direction do you want us to go?
What's included in services and utilities, line 3.030?
That's purchase services, and that includes a lot. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It includes open enrollment dollars going to other school districts. It includes community school tuition for students going to community schools. It includes students who are attending on a John Peterson or an autism scholarship to other districts. It includes our charges for Educational Service Center, the Northwest Ohio Educational Service Center, for our students who are participating in those programs. It includes all the electric, gas, telephone, any kind of a purchase service that we get. So if we have an electrician come on site, we usually charge that to a purchase service. Professional development is a purchase service. So it's a very big area of things.
So there's nobody we could call and try to get a 2 to 6 month reprieve in payment. Just
I can look at that list a little closer.
So for my business, my landlord gave us 3 months no rent and just tacked 3 years on to the end of our term.
was very nice.
Chrysler Capital is letting us push off 3 months worth of 4 Durango payments. So I just started making calls, and people are pushing back at least 2 to 3 months, sometimes even more payments. Even mortgages. People are doing that with mortgages.
I would say there'd be very little that we can do. The, open enrollment tuition, the John Peterson tuition, the community school tuition. We have not heard anything from the Ohio Department of Education that they're going to absorb any of those costs for us as schools. And those are the bigger ticket items. And the ESC is still providing services to our students who are attending those units and those programs. It also includes the fees for our students who go to the LEAP program down in Holland. They're still providing services to them as well. So I do have a detailed list and a spreadsheet of what makes up our purchase services. I'll look at that a little closer, but yeah, I never thought of that, but I don't really, off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that's going to say, sure, just don't pay us. So.
Not very little people told me no when I did it for my business. So
yeah, that's good. I mean, I'll have to look at that. I haven't gone through it that well. So I know one of the things that's in there is our copier program. We have a per copy lease, but we're not making as many copies. So that's definitely one number that's down. Bus fuel and the supplies area, I know that is down $8,000. Our substitute costs for this year, we're actually, when I looked at April, year-to-date April to year-to-date April from last year to this year, our substitute teacher costs were actually up from last year or from this year from last year. So I'm not sure how much savings is going to be there. We should have some utility cost savings. It's just too early to really see that. The interesting fact, I did look at natural gas. So I have a connection with getting somebody I can text that asks how many degree days we've had this year versus last year. So last year we had 5,900 degree days, which means we had a cold winter. This year we had 5,200 degree days. So it was a warmer winter this winter. So that saved us $15,000 on our natural gas bill because this winter wasn't as harsh as the winter before. So there's some savings there. Electricity is actually up this year versus last year. So not, year to date. So we may have some savings for the next couple months, but overall it's still probably going to be higher than last year. So I will look at the purchase services, Ben. That's a good point.
I would assume we can't touch payroll, right? That's all union protected.
It's actually protected by the Ohio Revised Code.
So they can give us a 20% pay cut, but we can't cut salaries by 10, 20%.
Well, that'll be a discussion we can have in executive session. Yep. And really the savings on personnel are related to substitutes, overtime. There's not much overtime that's happening, if at all. I think the only overtime we're paying right now is for building checks on the weekends for our custodians, which, we want to maintain our buildings. So we've continued with those, letting them come in and check the buildings on the weekends, but there's no overtime, there's no substitutes. So that's the reduction on the personnel side.
I have a couple of questions.
I'm ready.
The 3 staff positions, I think I saw 2 teaching. I saw that right. What were the 3 staff positions that are?
We have 2 teaching positions and then a custodian position that we're not filling right now.
Oh, okay, so mixed positions.
Yep. And then that includes 2 health insurance. We had a teacher last year who was not taking health insurance, and that's one of the reductions, and she wasn't taking health insurance. So it's really a reduction of 2 health insurance, which, adds up.
Okay. You just had a chart up there about the unemployment between Fulton and Lucas.
Yep.
How do I want to say this? The Lucas part of our district is pretty heavily populated. Do you have any idea what the percentage is between, as far as how many people we have living in Lucas opposed to Fulton? I don't know.
Population wise?
Yeah, you know, that, I don't know. That's why I said, is it a third? I mean, is that heavy, or do you have any idea? I didn't know if you'd ever looked at it that way.
On the real estate side, and just totally on real estate values, which, you know, of course includes commercial, but I could look at it from a residential perspective. Good job, Dave. Never thought of it that way.
Well, no, I was also thinking of the fact that the property values really aren't going to go down. If they do, it's not going to be a whole lot opposed to the income tax, or the income tax. I mean, that's where we're going to take the biggest hit from what I can see. And that's why I was asking, it looks like more people are out of work in Lucas than Fulton, but being as we sit on the line, we've got quite a few people that live in a district that live in Fulton or in Lucas County. That's why I didn't know what our percentage was. To me, then, the more people that live in Lucas, the higher the possibility is percentage-wise that they're going to be out of work, opposed to the Fulton side.
I know on the aggregate for the real estate property, it's 1/3 of our property value is in Lucas and 2/3 of our property value is in Fulton. But I don't know if the population is that way. I may have to reach back out to David Conley and ask him if he has any idea on that. Chris, you weren't here when we did that survey with I'll have to look back through that survey that we did with Stan Odeski and see if they had any splits on that, Dave. Awesome. Good.
All right. One more question.
Yep.
Our biggest expense utility wise, I think, is electricity, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the biggest expense of the three buildings would be the high school.
Yes.
Okay. And the proposed solar farm array doesn't include any electrical or LED upgrades and stuff. What would it cost us to have somebody evaluate the building just to see for potential savings? I mean, is that going to be would that be a large cost, or would that be something that might be feasible if you could get a study done for a couple of grand, that maybe we could start lowering that pretty quickly?
So Dave, we've been talking with Gardner. If you recall, last board meeting, we did enter into an agreement with them on routine maintenance for all of our HVAC. At next week's board meeting, we'll have a shared savings agreement that we want to enter into with Gardner. And this is, they believe that they can, by using our existing equipment and monitoring it, essentially what they would do is put in a server that would monitor our usage at our buildings 24/7. They believe that by monitoring it and then making adjustments to our existing equipment, that they can get more efficiency out of our system, which they feel could be a significant yearly savings for us just on the HVAC side. So, in that agreement, so no money would come out of our pockets up front. And any savings that would be generated would then be shared with the school receiving the bulk of the savings out of that. So we've been talking with them about that, and we just had one of our final meetings earlier this week, and next week I was going to have for all of you, wanting you to sign off on that agreement so we could enter into that and we could start to try to maximize our savings on heating and cooling costs in our buildings. LED is something that we've slowly been doing on our own. Glenn has been, as things burn out, things stop working, we've been replacing them. And, you know, this is another area where Gardner, you know, lots of companies are doing LED projects. And, you know, you can do them in many different ways. You can do shared savings agreements. You can pay for it up front. There's different ways to do it. So that was going to be a future discussion with Gardner as we saw what was happening with, you know, savings on the monitoring agreement that we wanted to enter into. So, I mean, these are all things that we've actually been thinking about for quite a while, really in my time here. So in the 3 years that I've been here, and Joyce and Glenn and I have been looking at ways to make the buildings more efficient. So those are all things that are on the table for us. And you know, we're trying to get things moving in the right direction in terms of creating those savings. And that's where, you know, the presentation on the solar field came into play, because if we can lock into a lower rate for an extended period of time and realize, you know, they're predicting, you know, $10,000 savings a year on electrical costs, but we know that we can make that even higher by improving the efficiency in the building. And so we feel like we're on track to, in the near future, get into some significant savings in the energy area of the buildings.
Okay, I forgot about the Gardner thing, but that's, I was just, when I was still doing school buses and I was going to all these different schools, and a lot of them were newer, most of the people that I was talking to were commenting about how the newer buildings, you don't have just the air conditioner on or the heat on, you have both, so that you can climate control the room. And that adds a significant cost to running in that building, because both systems are up and running, waiting for the command to either heat or cool. And I know a lot of them were talking about how that had to be tweaked a lot, and there was a lot of money to be saved. And I know I've heard over the years that we've been working towards that, but I thought that I didn't know if we had really got down to the nitty gritty with that, but it seems like that would be something to address or look at.
Yeah, if you guys approve the agreement, the shared savings agreement with Gardner, that's exactly what we'll enter into. Is they will essentially be, you know, like an alarm company monitors your home 24/7. Well, they're going to do that with our systems. And really, the goal is they will be able to remotely make tweaks and changes that will create fairly significant savings. They're thinking potentially up to $50,000 a year in savings on generating electrical costs.
You said 15 or 50?
50 is what they're predicting.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah.
I think the hard part in making guesses is whether we go back to school next year or not. So like if we don't have to turn the lights on in the high school next year, that saves us a ton of money, right? But if we have to go back and turn the lights on, there's almost two different budgets that we need to do.
And that's, so the difficult position we find ourselves in is it's anybody's guess what's going to happen in the fall. And we've not gotten any specific guidance as of this point. So it leaves us making contingency plans for, you know, A through Z, what a school year could look like. You know, it could be anything from completely normal to we stay online to anything in between. So you're right. All of that is going to impact how much money we spend on everything. If nobody can be in the buildings, we don't need to have the lights on, and we don't need to, you know, spend money on certain things. If we're back in school, then we're back in school, and, you know, we go from there. So really, we're in an unenviable position that we need to come up with a 5-year forecast in 7 days to give to all of you to approve. And we don't know what the future is going to look like. And we might not know. I mean, we've encouraged our legislators to essentially give us some direction sooner rather than later, preferably, you know, but before May is out, because we make so many decisions the summertime isn't just, oh, everybody, we all pack up and go home. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes on all summer to prepare for the next year. And, everything that people might think is trivial, but we need to know, for example, how many kids will they let us put on a school bus? That's going to impact how we transport kids. We need to know how many kids will they tell us we can have in a classroom, and, how many kids can you have in a cafeteria, and, all these things that is all going to play into how we approach bringing school back to something approximating normal. And we just don't have those answers right now. So, Joyce and we've had several conversations about this. I agree with her. I think the 5% reduction in the income tax is probably pretty accurate based on, the numbers that we're seeing. It's the state cut is the real wild card. They've essentially told us to prepare for a 10% cut for next year, but we've also heard rumblings it could be higher. And, the state, they have not touched their rainy day fund. It's $2.7 billion. They're talking about maybe tapping into it in the fall, but Joyce and I looked at a presentation just the other day where they're projecting, the state might be seeing a shortfall of $5.4 billion. So that's double what they have in the rainy day fund. So, I mean, we're all right now we're just anxiously awaiting some news, some guidance, and then we can start to make more concrete decisions.
Well, to me, the key point here is it's a forecast. We're not being asked to come up with a clear-cut plan right now on what we're going to do. We're trying to guess. Well, hell, we guess wrong, then we'll have to deal with it. But the reality is right now, we can take a poll of everybody here and everybody's going to have a different read on how things are. So personally, I'm not, I don't think the legislature has felt any heat on this as of yet, but as this starts to go down, they're going to be, especially with an election coming up in November, these people are going to have their feet held to the fire. And so things could change dramatically from what you're hearing now till then. So if you're asking for input, Joyce, I'd say go ahead and go with the 5, and I would hold with the 10. I'm not a gloom and doom at this point in time. I don't see going 20% on it. That's my opinion. Everybody else chime in with yours, because we're going to sit here for the next 3 hours and talk about all this shit, and it's on a forecast. And I'm sorry, I'm not willing to do that.
No, and you're exactly right. And you have the numbers of what a 20% reduction is going to do to our budget. So
sure.
Yes, I'd like some other input.
What are the ramifications of going with the forecast on what you have as far as at this point we have known, the known factors, and then state in there that we're basing this on our current information, which has been changing almost daily.
Yeah.
I mean, can we do that and it's going to satisfy the state, or is that going to cause issues? That's what I'm asking.
The downfall is that Joyce comes up with the numbers and we don't hit them, and then she says I was off by $50,000 or $100,000. That's what one of the things that's going to happen.
I'm worried about being off $1 million, and I don't want to be off $1 million.
Oh, no.
But
I think as a board, you're looking for some leeway. Like, we understand that this is going to be difficult to hit and to get accurate. And it's whether I put 5% in or 20% in. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Right? You're putting a disclaimer in.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there.
Okay, I'm good with that. I guess I'm getting the impression like if you make the wrong 5-year forecast, you're going to have penalties from the state. I mean, I don't see a penalty from us because it's, like you said, it's a guess, it's a forecast. you're doing better than the weather guys are. I mean, so, I mean, my thing is, you know.
And the other issue is, we have to look down the road in fiscal year or calendar year 2022. We're going to be back on the ballot for renewal. So we want to be very upfront that we have been as fiscally responsible as we can, and we are trying to forecast the best that we can. So Ben and John, do you have any words of wisdom?
I think for every $1,000 your forecast is off, Chris Lake has to eat a piece of Paisanello's pizza. And I'll agree to that.
Nope.
I'm writing that one down.
I agree with Steve and Dave and Chris Oberheim. It's just a guess. There's no way we can hold your feet to the fire on that. We see you're doing the best you can do with those numbers.
Was that for $1,000 or a $10,000 difference?
Let's go 10,000.
Okay. I'm writing it down, Ben.
He's gonna eat a
Don,
whole.
how about you?
He's eating a whole large.
I mean, obviously, it's a guessing game. And so, I mean, we all know that we're all doing what we can to control expenses and work with what we have, but there's too many unknowns for us to sit here and try to figure out whether it's 10 or 20 or 5. I mean, you plan, and as long as we're doing everything we can to control expenses and evaluate everything we're spending and try to stay as close when we get more information on what the future is, we adjust at that point. So, I mean, yeah, we're all saying the same thing, I believe.
I'll do a little bit more research. I mean, I'm comfortable with the 5% reduction in the school district income tax. I'm comfortable with putting a 10% reduction in state funding. But after that, I'm leaving state funding flat. But knowing that we have to have state funding go back up, or it's just not going to be pretty. And it's not just us that's in that boat. It's going to be everybody in that boat. So I don't want to be $1 million off and then have you guys be like very upset with me. But I mean, I want you all to be part of that decision and understand the unknown variables that we're working with. So thank you.
Yeah, Joyce takes a lot of pride in that 5-year forecast, and just putting your name on that. And then if it's off by that much, I mean, this is a really unfortunate time. I mean, you talk about the perfect storm. We were having conversations back in April about, hey, our school district income tax is on the rise. It's going up. People are working. I mean, we're at really high employment in the area, and we're seeing great growth out of that. It's doing everything we want it to do for the district. This is fantastic. Things are looking good in April. And then, I mean, the bottom falls out, 2 or 3 days after our April 8th board meeting. And here we are. It's just how fast things change.
I have a quick question about gas. I don't know, this has nothing to do with some of the stuff we're talking about, but if there's a potential we go back to school and we're only allowed so many kids on a bus, is there a potential that we'll have to run double the routes? And then now that gas is so cheap right now, is there any way for us to buy it in bulk and store it at the bus garage in a big tank or something?
Well, we run diesel, and diesel is not cheap. Diesel's I've seen it over $2. I would love to buy a bulk diesel tank to have on our property. And if you guys can get that done for me, I think that would be a great savings. That was a recommendation in 2004 when we did our performance audit. And that was before I came. It had been practically paid off by now, but get the superintendent to approve that one and I'll buy you all pizza.
Hey, I got you a propane storage tank at the bus garage, or that saved us a bunch of money.
Yeah, and the propane is saving us money.
Diesel's not coming down like gas.
It might be coming down. I know, I don't know where my husband and I were driving to, but diesel was $2.05 and gas was $1.76. So I don't know. That was over the weekend.
We used to have a diesel tank, and originally it was a gasoline tank, and then and we converted to diesel at the bus garage. At that time, unless things have changed, I was always under the impression, or I was always told that you didn't get a price break unless you bought a tanker, which is about 7,500 gallons. we had a 12,000 gallon in-ground tank, but it was plain steel and it had holes in it. So we had to remove it. And we also ended up with 200 tons of dirt over to Evergreen landfill. So at that point, we didn't put a tank back in. So there's some expense with it. And then if you get a smaller tank, you're going to be paying the delivery fees to keep that tank filled. So I don't know what the cost savings would be at this point, because that's been a few years ago. It might still be cheaper to have your tank at the point when we were talking about it before. It was going to be more of a convenience, so the drivers didn't have to get in and out of the gas stations. There was a company kicking around the idea of coming out and fueling the buses, like in the evening. I know, like Johnson Trucking at least was doing that for a while, and but here you go, who's going to be responsible? And that was their thing. If somebody spills the fuel, they're going to be on the hook, or who's going to be on the hook, and blah blah blah. But I don't know if anybody's still doing that. It seems like I've seen that particular company going to the gas station again. So I don't know if it's wasn't feasible, or they quit doing it. I don't know. It just put another 12,000 gallon tank in. That's like 20-foot long and I think 10-foot diameter or something like that. It's huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
There's no way we have the room to do something like that at this point. So that's something to look at, though, as far as a smaller tank with possibility of saving a little money.
And I think Jeff has been looking, for a double-walled tank that would fit like a half of a delivery truck. That I think you get a price break on a half of a delivery truck, maybe. The bulk diesel truck that comes out. But yeah, we keep kicking around. We keep kicking it around, but at this point, nothing's developed, so we're fine. All right. Well, thank you very much for your input. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your understanding, and I hope that. I will try to get something sent out to you Friday, and I will get my PowerPoint updated, so you can look at that over the weekend as well, and have that to review, as well as the forecast. So I think I'm good to go on what I'm going to do, and we can always change it when things change down the road.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, as someone who was in this district in 2003, when we came to a new building and opened it up in April and showed up in August, and the superintendent and treasurer said, "Oh, we made a mistake and we're over $1 million off." And they handed out pink slips to 38 teachers. We're not there yet, gang. So, it seems like a lot of gloom and doom, and I'm not making light of it, but it's, I think we stay on top of things and we make adjustments as we have better information, and we just stay the course, and hopefully, we'll come out on the other side.
That's all we can do.
That's hey, I don't know how many times I've heard it, but we're in uncharted waters. Nobody's ever gone through this. So there's got to be a little bit of a margin of error for us, because nobody knows what the hell's going on. And it's like I told Chris and Joyce, I'm sure glad we're in our situation and not in Anthony Wayne's situation right now, looking at $1 million deficit. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate everybody. I'm sure Joyce is going to compensate us dearly for this extra meeting. So her pizza bill is going up as we speak. So thanks, everybody. I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you.
I guess, hey, I'll see you guys in a week.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time tonight.
Everyone have a good evening.
Yep. Stay safe, everybody.
All right. Thank you.